When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, curtain call. User, RustyShackL33. Posted, November 4th, 1997.
I have never seen anything so grotesque in my life. I don't mean shocking or upsetting or hard to watch in the way people usually mean when they talk about movies or news footage. I mean grotesque in the old sense of the word. Something so wrong it curdles inside you, something that feels like it wasn't meant to be witnessed by a human being at all. And the worst part is how normal everything was, right up until it wasn't. I was killing time, that's all. Just killing time in another forgettable town that wasn't worth remembering past the exit sign. I'd finished my last call early, checked into a roadside motel with thin walls and a buzzing ice machine. I realized there was no point in going to bed yet. The TV barely worked, though, and the coffee taste burned. My head was still wired from the road, so I went for a walk. The town had a main drag you could cross in under a minute. Hardware store, a diner, a bar, a couple of shops selling things nobody buys anymore. Nothing special. A few people out smoking, a pickup idling at a light that didn't need to exist. And then I saw the theater. Old brick building squeezed between a dress shop and something that might have once been a pharmacy. A lit marquee, posters in the windows, real lights spilling out onto the sidewalk, voices inside. I stopped and stared longer than I meant to. Not because I love theater, I don't, but because it was there. Something happening. Something other than sitting alone in a motel room listening to pipes knock. I told myself I'd give it a shot. Why not? If it was bad, I'd leave. Inside, it smelled like dust and old fabric and popcorn oil. The kind of smell that clings to places where a lot of people have sat quietly for a long time. An old woman took my money at the booth and stamped my wrist without comment. The lobby was crowded with locals, plain clothes, familiar faces, couples chatting softly, comfortable and at ease. I followed him into the auditorium and found an aisle seat halfway up. The chair creaked when I sat, and the lights dim and the chatter faded. The curtain opened. The set was simple. A room, a table, a chair, a metal tub in the corner. The lighting was soft, almost intimate. Two actors came on stage, a man and a woman. Period costumes, maybe early 20th century. Their dialogue was quiet, natural, like eavesdropping on a real conversation. It took me a minute to realize how still the audience was. Not restless, not coughing or shifting, just attentive. The man stood behind the woman and began brushing her hair. Slow strokes, careful. The sound of bristles through hair was loud in the room, and I felt myself leaning forward without realizing it. When he pulled the scissors from his pocket, there was a ripple of pleased laughter from the crowd, like recognition, anticipation, and he cut her hair. At first, it was gentle, locks falling to the floor. The woman's expression stayed serene, then the cuts got closer to her scalp. Too close. When the scissors nicked skin and a thin red line appeared, I felt my stomach drop. The audience reacted warmly. Murmurs, soft laughter, and the man kept cutting, sloppier now. Blood ran down the side of her face, soaked into her collar. Her breathing changed, short and sharp. He dropped the scissors and took out a straight razor. I told myself it was fake. It had to be makeup, props, effects. I told myself that over and over while my hands went damp and my mouth dried out. He drew the razor across her throat. The cut opened clean and bright. Blood poured out fast, not spurting theatrically, just flowing, soaking her dress and dripping onto the floor. And the sound she made was not a scream. It was a wet, broken attempt at breath. The audience laughed. Not nervously, not in disbelief. They laughed like they were enjoying a clever joke. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My pulse hammered in my ears. I looked around, waiting to catch someone else's eye, waiting to see someone standing up, calling it off, but everyone was smiling. The man forced her head into the tub, and water sloshed. The choking sound turned into something animal and desperate, and then it stopped. He lifted her out and laid her on the floor. She did not move. He reached under the table and pulled out a saw. And that's when the room tilted. The saw bit into her wrist, and the sound was awful. Bone grinding, resistance giving way, blood sprayed in short arcs with each pull. He braced his foot on her shoulder for leverage, and someone clapped. Slowly. When the hand came free, he held it up, fingers dangling loosely, blood dripping onto the stage, and the applause swelled. And that is when I stood up, but my legs felt hollow, my vision tunneled. I moved down the aisle toward the exit, not running, but not really walking either. On stage, the saw started again. I made it into the lobby and my stomach revolted. I burst through the doors and into the cold night air, barely making it to the sidewalk before I threw up, and it came up hard and bitter, splattering the concrete. I gagged, shaking, hands braced on my knees. The sounds from inside followed me. Applause, laughter, the distant grind of metal on bone. I wiped my mouth and sucked in a breath, trying to steady myself, and then I looked up. The street was empty. Not quiet, empty. The diner across the way was dark. The bar's windows were black. The hardware store was boarded up, boards so weathered they looked decades old. No cars, no people, no sound but a single street lamp buzzing overhead. My breath caught. I turned slowly toward the theater. The marquee was dark, dead bulbs, missing letters. The glass doors were filthy, webbed. The posters inside bleached and curling like they'd been there forever. It looked abandoned, not closed for the night, abandoned. I stepped closer and grabbed the handle. Rusty, stuck. I looked down at my wrist and the ink stamp was still there, smeared in black. Behind me, something made a sound. Not laughter, applause. Slow and deliberate, coming from the empty street. I did not turn around. I walked back toward the motel with my head down and my stomach in knots, the clapping following me at a distance, steady and patient, like they weren't done watching yet.
Subject, the house on Main. User, dropout503. Posted, June 4th, 1999.
It wasn't the worst house on Main Street, but it was damn close. Roof sagging, a porch caved in on one side, paint flaking like sunburn. There were 2 windows boarded with mismatched plywood, and the foundation was tilted just enough that the kitchen floor pulled to the east. Like the whole house wanted to sink into the dirt and be done with it. But I saw potential. I've never been good at much. In fact, I failed out of high school my junior year. I got caught with weed in my locker. I took a swing at the vice principal when he called my mom pitiful, and that was that. No prom, no diploma, just a scuffed pair of work boots and a head full of shame. But I could work, always could. Started laying sod and trimming hedges for a guy in town. I learned to build fences, built my own crew by 19, saved every dollar I could. No bars, no fancy dinners, no nice clothes, just a busted-up trailer, a beat-up F-150 I rebuilt with my bare hands, and the kind of hunger that doesn't come from your stomach. Bought the place with cash, $23,000 even. No loan, no cosigner, just me and a handshake from a realtor who looked like he felt bad even selling it. But I had a reason. Her name was Emily. She was my high school sweetheart. Still is, depending how you define that. We'd been together since we were 15. Everyone said it wouldn't last. Her parents hated me, said I'd ruin her life, and when she got a scholarship to LSU, they packed her up so fast she didn't even have time to say goodbye to her cat. But we stayed close. Phone calls, letters, visits when we could. She'd cry sometimes, saying all she wanted was to come home, have a little place, a garden. She just wanted to teach at the school that kicked me out and have a couple kids of her own, enjoy life. I promised her I'd build that life for us, brick by brick. She just had to give me time. So when I saw this place, I knew it was perfect. Not for what it was, but for what it could be. I pictured it with a fresh coat of paint, a swing on the porch, maybe a new mailbox with Frey stenciled in black. When I was done with it, Emily would be the envy of everyone, even if it did come with me. But that was before I stepped inside. I've gutted moldy rentals. I've cleared snake dens. Once I found a possum nest under a rotting water heater. But nothing's ever made me stop in my tracks like that front hallway. It was cold. Not from the broken windows or the busted vents. It was the kind of cold that didn't move, like it had settled in the bones of the place. Stale, wet, like the air was holding its breath. There were flies, too. Hundreds swarming the inside of a boarded-up window. No light, no food, nothing dead, just buzzing, slapping themselves against the glass like they were trying to escape something I couldn't see. I should have walked, but pride's a stubborn thing, especially when you're trying to prove people wrong. So I got to work. The first week, I stripped wallpaper off the dining room walls. Underneath was another layer and another, 5 layers deep. The last one was old, hand-painted, flowers and vines in a soft blue-green. Beautiful, really, except it was wet, still damp, still smelling faintly of fresh paint. When I touched it, my fingertips came back blue. That night, as I slept on an air mattress downstairs, I dreamed of someone standing in the corner of that room, a woman in a white dress with a face I couldn't quite make out. The wallpaper dripped behind her like it was crying. When I woke up, my hands were stained blue again. I hadn't used paint in days. I blamed the stress and just kept doing what I do, grinding. Second week, I started pulling up the upstairs carpet. The floorboards underneath were warped and uneven, but intact, until I got to the room at the end of the hall. It was colder there, always. Even when the sun came through the cracked blinds, the air stayed still and heavy. When I peeled back the carpet, I found carvings in the wood, dozens of them, names, dates, strange little symbols, all of it scratched deep into the planks. The oldest one I could read said, "Do not let her out, 1906. Well, I laughed at first, figured it was a prank, kids carving ghost stories into the floor, until I saw the nails holding the bedroom door had been hammered from the outside. I didn't sleep that night, not because I believed in ghosts, rather because something in my gut had started to whisper. That kind of whisper that sounds like your father's voice when he says, "Son, this ain't right." But I kept going, kept grinding. Week 3, the dreams got worse. I'd hear Emily's voice, but distant, echoing like it was coming through a pipe. She'd be calling for help, asking why I left her behind. Sometimes I'd wake up to the front door creaking open. It was always locked when I checked it, deadbolt still turned, no sign of anyone, but the cold would be stronger those nights. Thick, like smoke. Other nights, I'd hear footsteps above me, even though I hadn't fixed the stairs yet. One time, I found blue paint footprints leading down from the attic. Bare feet, child-sized. They stopped halfway down the hallway and just ended. Still, I kept going because she was coming home. Thanksgiving was just around the corner, and Emily was going to be back from school for a few days. I'd promised her I'd fix up the living room by then, get the fireplace working, make it a place we could sit and plan the future her parents thought I could never give her. I was so excited, so driven to make this happen. I may be a loser to some, but I refuse to break promises to her. That's what I held on to when things started to really get bad. Tools started to go missing. No big deal, kinda just coincidental stuff, right? But the thing is that I'd find them days later in strange places. My hammer under the kitchen sink, my pry bar hanging from a branch in the backyard. Once I found every light bulb in the house unscrewed. Not broken, just unscrewed and placed in a line across the hallway floor. At first, I thought someone was messing with me, but aside from this, there really wasn't any sign of anyone else ever getting inside. The doors and windows were always locked. But then, it started to feel eerie in a different way. Like the house never wanted me to leave. That's what I started to believe, at least. It's how it felt in my gut. And no, I don't mean in a way that meant the house liked me. No, it felt like it was calling for her, like it remembered her and wanted her back. But still, if this wasn't going to freak me out and make me run yet, there was more to come. One night, as I was ripping out old damaged drywall upstairs, I found the nursery. It wasn't on the original floor plan, though. It was just a small room tucked behind a false wall upstairs. Crib still there, blankets rotten with mildew, a rocking horse collapsed in the corner. This was absolutely creepy, I had to admit that, and even more chilling than the mere sight of a hidden baby's room was the mobile above the crib was turning as if it had just been wound up only moments before my discovery. Yet, there was no wind, no draft, just a slow, methodical spin like someone had set it in motion and walked away. I was no longer sleeping at night. How could I? Instead, I went and sat on the porch with a cigarette and brought my shotgun with me that I kept for coyotes. What was I going to do with it? I don't know, but there I was. Well, right before sunrise, I heard that voice again, that female tone. But I wasn't scared this time because it was singing, a lullaby. I didn't recognize the song, but it was drifting down the stairs, sweet and soft. Grabbing the shotgun, I went back into the house and rushed upstairs to the nursery, where I found the old antique rocking horse upright and the mobile no longer spinning. A chill went through my body, but that wasn't even the worst part of it. Above the old crib were words strewn out in blue paint, still dripping wet. She belongs here. I left the house at 4:42 a.m., drove to the diner, and drank coffee until the sun came up. I haven't gone back inside since, and I'll admit it, I'm not sure what I bought, but it wasn't just a house. I think there's something in the walls, in the paint, in the air, and for some reason, I think it remembers Emily. It knows she's coming. I wanted to build her a home, Instead, I might have built her a prison. What am I going to tell her? How do you explain something like this? How do you say, hey babe, I think the house wants to keep you? But I absolutely have to stop her from coming because there is almost no doubt in my mind that if she steps inside, she won't ever leave.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.